Hey everybody, Clay Archer, CEO DPC Technology, and I've got a great one today. Today we're going to test the original UNAS Pro against the new UNAS 8 Pro, and for giggles we're going to throw both of them against my 45 Homelabs HL15. And let's see which one comes out as the best bang for the buck and which one might be the right fit for you. Alright, so let's jump right into the new UNAS 8 Pro, get it unboxed and installed. It's very typical Unifi packaging here, and as always, it's really well done. The unit itself does come with a set of rack rails. They're not super fancy rack rails, but they do work, and the unit can be pretty heavy if you build it all the way out, so you probably do want to use those. I'm really excited to see this new 8U chassis. I think this is one of the last chassis in the lineup for them to build out. So now they have the 4-bay chassis, which you've seen in the classic UNAS and the upcoming UNAS 4 Pro. They've got this 8-bay chassis. They've got the 7-bay chassis that we've seen for quite some time, and they've got the 16-bay chassis in the ENVR. So now whether it's in the UNVR world or the UNAS world, they have that whole ecosystem built out, and that's really good to see. So what's in this new chassis? On the front of it, we've got 8 drive bays now, and these drive caddies are the same drive caddies that we've seen in the other devices. They work really well. They're toolless. They're kind of tried and true. On the back of the unit now we have 2 fans. Those fans are now controllable through software, which is really cool as well. And we have 2 10 gig SPF Plus ports and a single 10 gig Ethernet RJ45 port. And that RJ45 port is 10 gig, 5 gig, 2.5 gig, 1 gig, and 100 meg compatible. So tons more connectivity on this unit. Additionally, it has 2 hot swappable power supply bays. It only comes with 1 power supply, but you can add a second power supply if you want that redundancy. Otherwise, there's a status light and the little recessed reset button on the front of the unit. The other notable and welcome feature on the back is the door to the M.2 NvMe SSD cache drives. There are 2 of those. Unifi was not only nice enough to send me this unit, but they sent me 2 2TB NvMe cache drives and 3 8TB hard drives. Now I filled the hard drive bays up with 8 8TB hard drives so that I could put this in RAID 10 and test its speed to the max. One other notable thing on the NvMe drives and the door to get to the cache drives is the little tool that you need to get into that door is not included with the UNAS 8 Pro itself. It comes in the expansion base. So if you either buy the $19 NvMe tray or the tray with the drives already in them, it will come with that little Unifi tool, and that Unifi tool is what you need to pop the door open and then eject the little plugs that are placeholders in those drive bays. So anyways, if you're looking at that tool, it's not in the box for the UNAS 8 Pro itself. So next, let's jump into the Unifi mobile app and we will get this adopted. It's a very simple process to get this adopted, just like anything else. If you're in the mobile app, it will just pop up on your screen, say that it's there. You can click adopt it. It will go through the process of adopting it. You can name it, and it will just roll through there, and it probably took 2 or 3 minutes to go through that process, and it was adopted. Okay, so now that we have that adopted on the mobile app, I'm going to jump into the computer real quick. Go ahead and click the setup storage, and like I mentioned before, we're going to set this up in RAID 10. Just a couple things first here. I have used some of these drives that I'm using in this particular test in other Unifi UNAS devices. So if you intend on reusing a drive, you can come in here and click on the drive, and there will be an option to format the drive here, or if it's already assigned to a different pool, unassign it from that pool. I have no storage pools set up here yet, but I did put a drive that was from a different storage pool in here, and it automatically brought over that storage pool. I've cleared that pool in my testing process, but if you do take a drive from another unit, you have the ability in here to reformat that drive or remove it from an existing storage pool. So with that being said, I'm going to set this up in RAID 10. So you can see here you've got 3 options: basic protection RAID 5, advanced protection RAID 6, and better performance RAID 10. Obviously, because I'm going to compare this to the original UNAS, I'm going to set them both in RAID 10 to get the highest possible transfer speeds that I can. Obviously, the trade-off for RAID 10 is only half of my storage is going to be utilized. I have high fault tolerance and I have higher speed. So I'm going to go here and click on RAID 10. I'm going to assign all of the drives to that pool. It's telling me here it's going to be 32 terabytes. I've got 8 8TB drives, so 4 of those is 32 terabytes, and I've got 4 drives of protection. So I'm going to click create, and it's going to say that I'm going to format and all data is going to be lost, and that's okay. And it will go through and it will process this. You'll also notice down here I've got the 2 SSDs. So now that I've got that storage pool finished, I'm going to go ahead and click assign SSD. And in here I've got 2 options. I've got RAID 0, which is read only, and it requires only 1 drive. It enhances the performance where the small files that are frequently read or only very minimal file changes / new files are stored on the SSD. That's a mouthful. And then we got RAID 1, which is read-write. It requires 2 drives, but half of the total drives are used for data redundancy, and it enhances performance where the small files are frequently read and written. And because I want both read and write performance, I'm going to choose the RAID 1 option, and I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And it's going to say it's going to format all data, and I'm going to click Create. And there we have it. Now I have a 32 terabyte storage pool with 2 terabytes of M.2 cache. So now to do my testing, I'm going to go ahead and map a network drive, just an SMB share here. It's super easy to do with UID. I'm going to go ahead and click on my UID here and bring up the UNAS Pro 8 Home. That's what I called this device. So now that I got that set up, you can come to the dashboard here and you can see everything's looking really good there. Got RAID 10 set up. My SSD cache mode is read-write, RAID 1. I could manage that storage, will do all my things. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my user credentials to my UID instance. So I'm going to go in here under my user, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go send invitation. Now, it has already sent me one, but I'm going to go ahead and click and send it again. And it's going to send it to my email address. So now that I've got that, I'm going to click on load your credentials, and it's going to go open identity. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to open my identity. And it just loaded my credentials in there. It just pops in and loads it real quick. And what you'll see now is if I go to my UID instance in my taskbar, so now inside of my UID, when I click my UNAS Pro 8 Home, I can just click the button that says Enable Auto Integration of Drive into File Explorer. Go ahead and click that, and boom, it just automatically happens. That is integrated into my File Explorer, which is really cool. So here you go. Now I obviously have not named that drive. I have not named my share here on my user. It's still just called shared sample drive. So you can see here in Explorer, it's still called a shared drive example. But had I named it something like on the UNAS here, it's called DCA. I could name it whatever here, but it automatically threw that up there. This one that's not connecting here on 8.4 is my UNAS 2, which I have turned off right now. So anyways, there's the drive, super quick, super easy. So now that we have that set up, I'm gonna play around for a little bit. We'll come back in a few seconds and we will do our tests. All right, so let's set the stage for this comparison a little bit. I've got the UNAS Pro set up in RAID 10 with 6 8 terabyte hard drives. It's 24 gigs of usable space, and it is the fastest configuration for the UNAS Pro itself. The UNAS Pro 8 is set up in RAID 10 as well, and it has 8 terabyte hard drives set up in RAID 10. So it has 32 terabytes of usable space. And just for reference, I'm going to throw them up against my HL15. Now it's a much more expensive unit. It's got 15, 16 terabyte hard drives in it, 3 NvMe Cache drives in it, and it is a whomper of a system. So let's walk through just the basic differences of them. And I'm going to start out by comparing the UNAS Pro and the UNAS Pro 8 on store.ui.com using their compare feature. You can see the UNAS Pro is $499 and UNAS Pro 8 is $799. The dimensions are roughly the same of the two units. So we have 7 drive bays versus 8 drive bays and 2 M.2 NvMe bays. So for networking on the UNAS Pro, we have one 10 gig SFP Plus port and a gigabit Ethernet RJ45 port. And on the UNAS Pro 8, we have 2 10 gigabit SFP Plus ports and one 10 gigabit Ethernet RJ45 port. So you can see there's a lot more connectivity on the UNAS Pro 8. So they both have power redundancy, but you have to have an RPS for the redundancy on the UNAS Pro, whereas you have dual hot swappable power supplies in the Pro 8. They're both 2U units. There's quite a bit more power budget for the UNAS Pro 8. It's a little surprising considering there's only one extra drive bay and 2 N.2 drives. So not a ton more hardware in there, but alas, there is quite a bit more power supply. And again, the hot swappable power supplies. So the processor on the new UNAS Pro 8 is a little bit faster, 1.7 gigahertz versus 2.0 on the Pro 8. And we go from 8 gigs of RAM to 16 gigs of RAM on the Pro 8. We also do get the touchscreen on the Pro. There's not any room for it on the Pro 8. And you can see the little bit of weight difference on the UNAS Pro 8. Not much, but just a little bit there. So pretty comparable. We're talking about $300 price difference there. I'm going to put a little overlay on the screen now, but I'm just going to talk about the price difference between these units as they're built out in this particular test. So for the UNAS Pro, we have $499 for a unit, and we have $1,494 for those 6 drives. There is no M.2 component to it, and so we got $1,993 totally built out in RAID 10 for 24 terabytes. So for the UNAS Pro 8, it's $799 for the unit itself, $1,992 for those 8 hard drives, and $377 for the M.2s. I will tell you, I was not able to find the M.2 drives on store.ui.com today. So what I did was price out the chassis with a M.2 drive that I got online. So that price may vary, but it was $377.98 to build those out for a grand total of just under $3,200 for 32 terabytes in RAID 10. So for my HL15, which is total overkill and not a fair comparison in any way, shape, or form, it was $2,309 for the unit itself, but that's for 64 gigs of RAM. It's running a Xeon Silver 12-core CPU. This is a really high-end machine, and it has $4,935 worth of drives. That's 16 terabyte drives, and it has 3 M.2 drives in it that were $479, bringing the grand total to $7,724 for 201 terabytes of storage. So you can see a $2,000 NAS versus a $3,200 NAS versus a $7,700 NAS. There should be some differences in between these, and we are about to test them and find out what they are. First, before we start the speed test, let me tell you, I'm not a big fan of speed tests. Everybody's network is a little bit different. People may have bottlenecks. Some people may have a super fast network. Some people may have a super slow network. I am testing this on super high-end Unifi gear as well. This is all going through a Pro XG aggregation switch and an Enterprise XG24. Those are very high-end switches, so I am going to get all of the 10 gig out of everything, and those are connected at 25 gig between the two of them. So, the capability of my network is super strong. You may not get the kind of throughput that I get here. I may have some issues on my network that slow things down. And the files that everybody uses are different. I am going to test this on YouTube files. So basically when I do a video, there are a bunch of different files of different file sizes. An average video for me is about 25 gigs. So I'm going to do a copy of my AI DSLR video I did last year. It's a pretty typical video of mine. That video folder is 24.8 gigabytes. It's got some big files, it's got some small files, and it's a pretty good representation of what I use on a daily basis. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to copy those to a couple of different places. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to copy it to the UNAS Pro. That is this DCA drive here. So I'm just going to pull that file from my desktop over into the DCA drive, and let's see how fast it goes. All right, so it says it's going to take about 30 seconds, and it is copying that from my desktop to the drive. It's copying that somewhere between 800 megabytes per second down to 300, and you'll see this is one of the weaknesses of the Pro, is that it will throttle a little bit more than the other NASs, and that is because it doesn't have the cache to kind of store those files, I think. All right, so that was pretty quick. So I would say that was averaging somewhere between 650 and 700 megabytes per second. That's pretty good, but let's see what we get out of the UNAS Pro 8 for the same test. I'm gonna drag that over here and do our thing. So we're getting a little less, but we're getting a little bit more consistency there, and it's slowly rising up. You'll see that we're not getting the dips. So we're getting a pretty steady 700, getting up to 750, 800. But you'll see this, you don't get the sawtooth that you get on the UNAS Pro with UNAS Pro 8. And I'd say that probably happened maybe 5 seconds faster. Completely unscientific, but I don't know that that is a world of difference there. All right, so let's go back to UNAS Pro, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to move the file back to my desktop. And here you can see we're getting much lower speeds here because it's having to write. We're at 200 megabytes per second, estimating about 2 minutes there from the beginning. See it slowly building up a little bit, but we're not really killing it. Getting a little bit of that sawtooth action. Picking up around 350, but you can see it took the greater part of that 2 minutes to make that happen. So let's go ahead and go over to the Pro 8, and I'm going to delete these files off my desktop, and we'll go ahead and drag these over from the Pro 8. And right off the bat, you can see just a huge difference there, and the consistency that cache is giving it of just being able to fill up. And I don't know if it's the cache or just the drive, more drives in the RAID 10. I don't know, but you just don't see that sawtooth. I'm assuming it's the cache drives that are able to just have everything ready for that to quickly offboard it. But I would say we're easily averaging 625 here. We're getting up in the higher sixes, dipping down into the mid fives, but a pretty consistent and just probably twice as fast. So that transfer there on that unit. Now, how scientific that is, I don't know, but in real world experience, that's what we're doing on a daily basis with our files. Basically, we're moving a file from here to there. So if you saw Michael's video on UNAS, his goal was to be able to video edit with 2 video editors off the same NAS at the same time.
Hi, Editor Michael again. We are still using the UNAS Pro to edit. Both myself and Jack edit off of it at the same time a lot, and it works great. The fact that Clay is able to upload files directly to our UNAS remotely and we're able to just jump right on the edit is amazing. The only thing is, when we first open up a project again, like if we've saved a project then we go back to open it up later, or when we first drop a large clip in the timeline, it takes a little longer than we're used to generate the peak files inside of Premiere. I'm not really sure why that is. It's not a terribly long amount of time, just a little bit longer than we're used to. But just something to note. I figured I'd throw it out there. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. Thanks.
All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, and I'm going to drag that file off of my desktop to my HL15. This folder that's called Plex here is my HL15, and I am going to move it over here to the HL15. And you can see here I'm getting one, probably averaging about 1 gigabit per second here. And this is true 10 gigabit per second throughput with a huge processor, a ton of RAM, and cache drives. So that kind of, to me, is the benchmark. So the UNAS took about 35 seconds, and the UNAS Pro 8 took about 30 seconds, and that took about 25 seconds. So, what are you getting for that 5 seconds there? I don't know that you would really get that much difference in anything. But the numbers don't lie there. That is a faster transfer. And on this as well, the big kicker here too is moving it back. I'm going to go ahead and move that back onto the desktop here. And you'll see these speeds are a gigabit as well and 25 seconds. So on the UNAS, that was 2 minutes. And so to go 2 minutes to 1 minute to 30 seconds, that is an appreciable difference, but at what cost? The device itself goes from $499 to $799 to $2,300. How much is that difference? And I talked quite a bit about this on my UNAS 2 review. That first jump from gigabit to 2.5 gigabit is a really big jump. So let's just say one of these videos was taking 5 minutes to transfer at gigabit. That jump to 2.5 gigabit now, where I'm taking it from 5 minutes to 2.5 minutes, that's awesome. And that jump from 2.5 gig to 5 gig to take it from 2.5 minutes to 1 minute and 15 seconds, that's pretty cool too. From that 5 gig to that 10 gig where you're halving that again, now you're only saving 30 seconds. It's not that big of a deal. And so as the numbers get bigger and you're doubling them, the halving of the half is not as big. So where I see the biggest gains is that 1 to 2.5. So if you're going from an older gigabit drive to like the UNAS 2 where you have 2.5 gig, that's a really big jump. But these next little slivers come at a huge cost. So it's $1,200 to go from the UNAS Pro I have built out here to that UNAS Pro 8. And do I see that much difference? I don't know. That's a decision for you to make. I personally think the UNAS Pro may still be the sweet spot here because transferring at 600 megabytes per second is super fast. So if you're transferring a 2 gigabyte movie, it's boom, it's done. I mean, it doesn't take that long. And if you're just pushing around regular normal files, photographs, that kind of stuff, it's more than enough speed. But if you're trying to have multiple editors work off a machine at the same time, it may make sense to jump up to something like the UNAS Pro 8. And if you're really trying to split the atom and go as fast as humanly possible, you could spend double the money again to go to the HL15, but you're not getting double the performance. You're probably doubling the price to get 20 to 30% more performance. So like every question in tech is, where do you stop? What is good enough for you? So what they're doing here by building out the UNAS 2, the UNAS 4, UNAS Pro, UNAS Pro 4, and UNAS Pro 8 is they're giving you different options at different speeds and different capacities. So you can choose exactly what works right for you. If you are an existing UNAS Pro user, I don't think there's any reason to go out and buy the UNAS Pro 8 unless you're trying to get more than a couple people editing video off the machine at the same time. I think the UNAS Pro is still a heck of a machine for the money. If you do think that NvMe Cache and kind of the more steady transfer speeds are going to help you, then I think the $300 to go to the UNAS Pro 8 is money well spent. But no, going into that to build it out fully is going to be more expensive. Also note that I did this review in RAID 10 just so that I could get the highest possible speeds out of the devices, but that may not be the most efficient use of drives and maybe a little bit more expensive than using RAID 5 or RAID 6 in your instance. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I do plan on doing a review of the upcoming UNAS Pro 4. If there's anything you want me to see in that review, please put it down there. Anything you want me to compare it to or any questions you have, please put them down below. It does help me create the content that you want to see. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.